The first weeks after Claire left felt like standing on the edge of something fragile. Allison wasn't sure if it was the beginning of change or just another temporary distraction. But she kept moving, small steps, tentative strides, because standing still was no longer an option. Every morning, she forced herself into her running shoes. The ritual became part of her. Tie the laces. Step outside. Breathe in the cold Boston air. Run until her body remembered that it was still alive. Some days it was only a mile before her legs burned, but other days she surprised herself, longer runs, steadier breaths, even a sense of rhythm. It wasn't about speed. It wasn't about distance. It was about reminding herself she was still here. Still moving. Still capable of pushing forward, even if her heart lagged behind. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, Allison returned to her apartment and found herself staring at the book she had bought, the one about healing after loss. The spine was already creased from nights of reading, its pages marked with underlines and scribbled notes. She opened it at random and read a sentence aloud to herself. Healing doesn't erase the past. It teaches you how to carry it without letting it crush you. Her voice cracked when she said the words out loud. She closed the book, pressed it to her chest, and whispered into the silence. I want to believe that. On Saturday morning, she returned to the church basement for the support group. The chairs were set up in the same uneven circle. The coffee tasted burnt. The plate of cookies still sat untouched on the plastic table. But something felt different this time. She noticed faces she recognized now: Mark, the older man who had lost his wife after 40 years together. Rachel, the young mother raising her daughter alone after her husband's sudden accident. Evan, the college student whose first love had ended in betrayal. When her turn came to speak, Allison didn't hesitate as much. My name is Allison, she began, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. It's been 6 months since my breakup. Some days I feel like I'm learning how to live again. Other days, I feel like I'm right back where I started. But I keep showing up. That has to count for something. Mark gave her a small nod of approval. Rachel offered a gentle smile. Evan muttered, It does. It really does. For the first time, Allison felt like she wasn't just spilling her pain into a void. She was part of something, a fragile, imperfect community stitched together by grief and resilience. That night, she wrote in her journal. I'm not healed. Not even close. But maybe healing isn't an end goal. Maybe it's just learning how to breathe again, one breath at a time. She underlined the last words twice, then closed the notebook with a sense of finality. December arrived with sharp winds and early darkness. The city dressed itself in twinkling lights, holiday markets popped up on street corners, and the smell of roasted chestnuts mingled with the cold air. For most of Boston, it was a season of joy. For Allison, it was complicated. The holidays had always been her favorite time with David. They had decorated their tiny apartment with garlands and candles. They had built traditions: hot cocoa with too many marshmallows, ice skating on Frog Pond, late-night walks through the snow. Now, every decoration on the street felt like a reminder of what she no longer had. But instead of avoiding it, Allison forced herself to walk through the common one evening. She stood by the giant Christmas tree, glowing with hundreds of colored bulbs. Families posed for photos. Couples held hands. Strangers laughed in the cold. For a moment, the ache in her chest was almost unbearable. She wanted to run, to hide, to collapse under the weight of memory. But then she remembered something Claire had said before leaving: they're still here. You just forgot where to look. So Allison looked. She watched the children shrieking with joy, their boots crunching in the snow. She listened to the carolers singing off-key but with unshakable warmth. She inhaled the scent of cinnamon from a vendor's cart. And slowly, something inside her softened. She wasn't ready to celebrate. Not yet. But she could stand there, in the middle of it all, and not feel completely erased. The next support group meeting fell just before Christmas. Only a handful of people showed up, many had family obligations or travel plans. The small circle felt more intimate, almost fragile. They talked about traditions, about how the holidays had changed since their losses. Mark admitted he still set a place at the table for his wife. Rachel said she decorated the tree with her daughter, even though every ornament carried memories of her husband. Evan confessed he couldn't stand holiday music anymore because it reminded him of his ex. When it was Allison's turn, she hesitated. "I don't know what the holidays are supposed to look like without him," she said quietly. "But maybe it's a chance to make something new. Something that's just mine." The group nodded in agreement. It wasn't a solution. But it was a start. On Christmas morning, Allison woke to silence. No gifts under a tree, no stockings, no laughter. Just her and the hum of the radiator. For a moment, she felt the old weight pressing down on her, threatening to pull her back into despair. But instead of sinking, she grabbed her running shoes. The city streets were nearly empty, blanketed in fresh snow. Her breath puffed white in the air as she ran, the world quiet except for the crunch of her steps. By the time she reached the Charles River, the sun was rising, painting the snow in shades of pink and gold. She stopped, panting, her heart hammering in her chest. The river glistened like glass, and in its reflection she saw herself, not broken, not whole, but still standing. She whispered again, just like she had weeks before. "I'm still here." This time, the words didn't feel like survival. They felt like a promise. In January, Allison signed up for a writing workshop at the community center. It was something David had always encouraged her to do, but she had never dared. Now, it felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. The class was small, 10 people gathered around a long table, their notebooks open, pens ready. The instructor, a woman with silver hair and kind eyes, asked them to write about beginnings. Allison hesitated, then wrote. "Beginnings don't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes they slip in quietly, disguised as ordinary days. A run by the river. A book about healing. A group of strangers who understand. Maybe this is my beginning." When she read her piece aloud, her voice shook. But the nods around the table told her she wasn't alone. By the end of the month, Allison realized something: she was no longer counting the days since David left. Time was moving forward, and so was she. She still missed him. Some mornings, she still reached for the second mug before remembering. Some nights, she still dreamed of him. But the grief no longer consumed every breath. She was learning how to breathe again. And that, for now, was enough.